Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror movie and they discuss it. Today we are talking about 1990's Misery, which was directed by Rob Reiner. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us is, are you Stephen King's biggest fan, Dom?
I gotta be up there. I'm number one. I'm number one.
I'm your number one fan. And with us is Dom Berger. Welcome back to the show, Dom.
Oh, thanks for having me. Guys, I think this is like 9 or 10 I think only 9 movies, but 10 podcasts.
So, I think you're up there, maybe more.
I can't even, I've been watching you and you guys have been putting out so many. It's really impressive. I love everything that you're doing. And I'm happy to be a part of this whole journey, man.
Oh, Dom. Well, you also were our first guest. I know we've always mentioned that, but dude, you're here now. You are our Stephen King expert. You're our Hannibal expert. You're one of our best friends, Dom. You know.
I'm really touched, guys. I mean, you're both at my wedding, and that was almost on purpose. So, and I was thinking you were asking about like what movie we could possibly do next. And I love Stephen King. I've mentioned this on other episodes, but I listened to all of his audiobooks. And the truth is, when it comes to Misery, I had not seen the movie until for this podcast.
What?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, this is the first time.
Eric, you hadn't either, though, right?
No, I haven't either, but Dom, that's crazy. I would expect you have, but...
And you know what? Like, I want to hear everyone's view on this movie, but it did not disappoint.
Yeah. So, yeah, you read the book then for this?
I sure did.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I can't wait to find out all the comparisons. I have a few questions that we'll get into, but yeah. So Eric, this is your first time. This is your first time, Dom. When did you read this, Dom?
Ooh, originally, it was before I moved to Boston. So like 2015, 2014, that area.
Oh, wow.
And then I was looking for, it's one of those that I had heard of from the movie. And I had no idea what it was about, but listening to it for the first time, I was like, holy shit, man. And there's some big differences between the book and the movie, but like they did a really good job keeping, beat for beat.
All right, Eric, I got it here. What's your initial thoughts?
Some say misery loves company. That's all I was thinking of watching this movie. No, but initial thoughts are, I think this is a prequel to Elf, from what I gathered.
He got out of the author business and became like a...
No, he's in the author business, but he's like, I'm not doing like these misery books anymore. I'm doing children's books. Cue having an elf child, and that's Elf. He's the same character. He's like cranky and grouchy and...
Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Eric, yeah, I was gonna ask you. I was like, all right, you have to come up with a sequel idea. You already did. Look at that.
Done.
Yeah. All right, check it off the list.
Sequel's been made. That's so exciting.
I actually have a remake idea, like a modernized version of it, but I'll say that for later. But like initial thoughts, dude, I was like, okay, like I really gained a lot more love and respect for Stephen King, like film wise. Like I just love his films, adaptations of his novels, and the red text, like title sequence, the music they use. It's just like he's such a national treasure at this point to me. Like,
he's got so many stories that are like single stories, and a lot of them have to revolve around like an author, right? Write what you know. So a lot of his early works, like the main character is or has been an author. And this in particular is like a very good, I don't know if it's a metaphor or, whatever about being an author and like what your fans demand of you. So like, and when you're reading this book, it's like, I've heard that Kathy Bates had won the Oscar for this. So like, even before seeing it, I was picturing her because I'd seen her in American Horror Story. I've seen her in everything. Right. And she was so good, guys. She was so good. I'll start with James Caan, man. Like he did a really great job. I know he's in the bed for most of his performance and like, he's trying to play it cool and thinks that he's going to get out of the situation. But the movie does a great job of starting you off and being like, she from the very beginning is like, you're not getting out of here. Like, no one's coming.
James Caan's character is there's so much depth to him. And you're right, it's so inspired by Stephen King, where it's like he goes to the hotel, basically where he wrote The Shining in Colorado, the Stanley Hotel, and everybody knows him sort of thing. He smokes that cigarette, he's got his Mustang, blah, blah, blah. But you're right, he's such a smart character and he has to like adapt to everything that he's in, and knowing that he doesn't want to write these anymore, he's trying to move on with his life, and then the fans are keeping him prisoner almost. And yeah, love his character in this.
Do you think it's like Stephen King's way of saying like "Leave me the hell alone"?
Yeah.
Fans,
Oh, for
like,
sure.
yeah, it's like that's like the like oh, I'm your number one fan. I love your book. He's like, that's really great. Like, love it.
Dude, imagine everywhere Stephen King goes, people are just like, "I fucking love your books, man." He's like, "Sweet, sweet. Guys, can we talk like, the Red Sox are doing really good, like, can we talk anything else but my books?" Like
Dude, it's so funny though, because he's like, you guys all think that you're doing me a favor by running up to me, but this is what it's really like. People come up to me all the time. They have their specific series that they're in love with, and they blame me for like what happens to the character. And Stephen King's pretty like famously says, like, I don't know what's gonna happen to the characters before I write the books. It's not like a conscious effort where I'm like, okay, this character dies or wherever. He describes it as like, as I'm writing, I'm watching through this
Mm.
lens and the things just happen and I write it down.
well, there's also that, like, a lot of people don't like the way he ends his things, and he even kind of pokes fun at that in the It series with that screenwriter, and people are like, "We don't like the ending," and so he's aware of, I think his presence in society.
Oh, for sure. And can I say that the book and the movie, like, he actually lands, in my opinion, he lands the ending for these two really, really well because they do a great job in the book, at least, of like, there's just so many things that happen that you're like, he's not going to get out of this. And it's not a matter of like, is he going to survive this? It's whether or not he's going to kill Annie, like whether or not he's going to get the upper hand because the way she talks and the like what she understands and the way her personality flips from she's very bipolar, but she's borderline. So one minute she's happy, one minute she's sad. She goes into these states where she's like a zombie and you're terrified for him.
Yeah. I mean, and we see it start to unfold throughout the whole thing. Like, she's so friendly in the beginning. Then there's that one day where the rain comes and she's like, "It gives me the blues." And then you slowly find out she like kills babies and stuff. And yeah.
Wait, can I stop you there? Does she feed her babies to the pig?
Hey, that's what I was gonna ask. That it was like, Dom, is that in the book? Is that in the book?
No, I don't think she feeds. I mean, there that whole piece about like how she starts killing babies is all part of the book. He finds that she leaves out in the book. She's actually more terrifying, which is I wanted to say like, what was the most gruesome part in this movie for you guys?
Well, the foot part, but Eric, I thought the same thing. I was like, "Oh, she's feeding the baby to the pigs for sure, for sure."
Yeah,
Sorry, but yeah, the foot part, dude. The foot part is fucking.
yeah, the hobbling or what's it? Hobbling? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what
called
it's
Hobbling. And in the book, right, she takes one of his feet and she takes an axe and she chops off his foot.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's not, and it's only 1 foot, and there's a lot more things that happen. But like, think of the most gruesome part from this movie, and there's the book itself has at one point she chops off his thumb.
Mm.
But anyway, I don't want to get too quickly into the differences between the book and the movie because the movie does have a lot going on for it. They have that B plot with the sheriff, which is not in the book. There's not like a what happens in the book is like they go into the story that he's writing, and it's kind of the way that he stays alive. So she's keeping him captive. In the movie, it's like beautiful. The apartment is. I mean, it's not like an amazing place, but in the book, it's like a fucking shack. There, she's not taking care of herself. There's food out everywhere. It's dirty. And then the only way that he's like dealing with all this pain, right? And she gets him hooked on these pain medication pills where like he's taking them, in the beginning because for the pain, but then she's just giving him every day. So he gets addicted to them. He becomes at her mercy because she's got to give him the pills. And when she gets really upset, she'll leave for like 2 days. So then like she'll forget to feed him. Like at one point he eats a rat in the corner.
oh my god.
Oh yeah. It's a really, if I could, before I spoil anything for the book, if you guys have the chance, please go out and read the book because they take everything the movie does, and the movie does a really great job for an hour 40, but they like, turn it up to 11.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
felt too short. I was kind of just like, damn, I want more. Like, I do want more from this.
That's my first question. Like Eric, do you feel like it like was like fast, or like do you think that they gave enough time for everything to kind of marinate?
I mean, it kicks off fast and then it kind of simmers for a bit, and then I'm a little bored, and then by about 40 minutes, I'm really invested, and I want to see how he gets out of this. And I didn't know how he got out of it. All I knew from this movie, never read the book, is that the hobbling scene. I think everyone knows or has seen that to some extent. That's what I was expecting. Like, oh, she's gonna hobble him soon.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's when I got invested. But it felt the pacing was good. It didn't feel too long. maybe like it is an older movie. It's 1990, so maybe whack 10 minutes off somehow, but it felt
No.
long enough.
No.
No?
Make it longer. Make it 2.5 hours, dude. I wanna see all the
Oh my
shit.
god. You wanna see him eating a rat?
I wanna see the rat. I wanna see everything, dude.
Dude, there's so
Yeah.
many things that they could have been putting into it. And I do agree, Eric, right? I think it's a more of a product of the 1990s. They have like the brass that like kind of keeps the beginning really light. They do a good job. Like in the book, he's like an alcoholic. And the reason that he gets into that car crash is because he's wasted and he's driving
Really?
one night. Yeah, he's driving one night with his sports car and he just fucking flips it.
Well,
God.
that explains it, because the beginning of the movie, I'm like, all right, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, he's like, I didn't know there was going to be a storm. He says that. It's like, but it's still, there's snow on the ground. You're driving a sports car. It probably doesn't have snow tires. Like, what are
No.
you doing?
That
Like,
car, like, the second it leaves the parking lot was already like slamming into he's just like, "I'm fine." Dom, that makes so much more sense, though. He should have been drunk. And
yeah,
also,
well, yeah.
this is before Stephen King got sober. So it's like, dude, come on, Stephen King, crank it up to 11. Or no, I guess
Oh,
Rob Reiner then, because he directed it.
yeah, and I think they did a great job at like specific points of drawing your attention where it needs to be. But like, he's a much bigger piece of shit in the book. And like, when he says in the beginning, like, or in the end of the movie, he's like, "Oh, Annie helped me." It's because he has all these bad habits, and like Annie won't let him drink, and like he gets like writer's block. He's like a piece of shit where he doesn't like stick to his deadlines, and his whole arc is like, I don't want to do these misery things anymore. I want to be taken seriously as a writer. And the thing that keeps him alive and going is like he takes this story, which he had basically written himself out of. Like he killed off that character.
Mm.
He thought she was two dimensional. And like every day when she's like, she treats him terribly. So, when she spills the soup in the movie,
Oh, yeah, that's the first sign I'd get out of there.
first
I'd
sign,
crawl my
right?
ass out of there. Like, all right, we're out.
How, Eric? How?
Oh, I'd crawl my ass out of there. I'd like army crawl. Like, his arms looked okay, right?
Yeah, dude, he was in much
I'd be
better
out.
shape. He was
Yeah.
like, in the book, she's just like jacked woman who, even
Oh,
if he was in like a good state, would probably give him a run for his money.
damn.
Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting because like Kathy Bates, man, what they just zoom in on her face and they just keep the camera going. And I don't know how someone is even capable of what she did in this movie.
Well, that one scene I love where she just goes on about the reels, the film reels that she watched when she was a kid, and she's like, "All the other kids got tricked, not me, not me." She's like freaking out, and he's just like, "Okay, this lady literally is insane, and she's gonna
Oh,
kill me if I don't do what she says." I think that's the moment where it snaps, and I'm like, "God damn, Kathy Bates, this is like one of her first things too."
yes.
Yeah, real quick, I was gonna say, Dom, to your point about him writing and like how he's like, you mentioned he's an alcoholic, so she's getting him addicted to pills too, so that's
Yeah.
not good. But his writing is what's keeping him alive, because based on what he writes and Annie reads is how her mood is gonna be. So he needs to write what he thinks she wants to read, right? That's what I was gathering. Like he's
Oh,
like, I don't give a shit about what happens to this character. I have to write in a way that I think will work with Annie's mood.
yes.
Even if he thinks it's what she wants to read, as she's reading it, the tension must be so high because he doesn't know if she's gonna be like, "No, no, no, what the fuck is it?" and like start freaking out.
Yeah. Another part I liked, and I caught this, was she doesn't like the swearing in it. Remember?
Yeah.
She's
Mhm.
like, I don't like the swearing. I don't. And at the end of the movie, what does she call James Caan?
Yeah, cocksucker.
She calls him like, yeah, like, and she's been in like you saw her driving and someone cuts her off and she like calls someone like a ninky poo or something, some like not a bad name. But when she says that, it's like, oh, this is her peak of like her breaking her mold.
Dude, they talk about it, right? She has this like strength the entire book where she's like putting him in and out of this bed. He's there for months, right? So he's losing all of his like strength and muscle mass. They kind of do a thing where they're like, all right, James, just kind of like shoulder press that typewriter, like
Oh, yeah.
show that you're getting strong. But in the book, they have that scene in the movie where he pours the pills into her drink and she spills it or whatever. And you're like, I don't know if she knew about it and she was being smart. But in the book, she is always 5 steps ahead of him. Like she knows chapters after, that he's done what he's done. He hides the butcher knife, he stashes the medication. And like, it's really interesting because like, oh my God, like
She's his number one fan, so she knows his moves.
she's so smart too. Like she was like, this accomplished nurse. And then the cool thing about like having Kathy Bates is like you only need a few scenes to see that flip, that bipolar flip, and you're like, and they keep, you know, and James Caan, to his credit, you know, they're doing the same thing with him. They're just rolling on both of them, and it's up to both of them to kind of convey the craziness of the story and the fear that he's feeling because of it.
Yeah, you're right, she's so smart, but she plays it off like she's not stupid, but just, like, almost, like, naive, and there's a word that she mispronounces at the end, I can't remember what it
Yeah,
is.
she on the champagne.
Oh, right, the Dom Perignon, and she was like, "The
Yeah.
Dom Perignon." So it's like, she's in her own little world, but she's not stupid, like, even the weather thing where she was just like, "Is it just to me or the weather seem like they're getting shorter?" And they say it's the ozone layer, but, like, she just has that, like, "It's in my bones, like my country bones,"
Mm.
kinda like.
Also, the Sistine Chapel
Oh, right,
line. Yeah.
right, yeah, so it's like she's very ignorant on certain things, but in her own little controlled world, which is this house, she is 5 steps ahead of it, and she knows you're right, she knows James Caan so well.
Yeah, they refer to her in the book as like this goddess, like not like looks wise, but like that she can't be killed, she can't be outsmarted. And you know, she a lot of that in the book, she's playing dumb because she expects people to think that she's dumb. So
Right,
when they try to pull something over on her and she's like super paranoid and suspicious, so that like, you know, when she reveals at one point in the book, she's like, you know, I know you've been out of the room, and she's like, how many times? And at this point, she has drugged him, so he really can't lie. And she's like, you know, like, tell me how many times you've been out of this room. And he's like, I've only been out twice, and it's true. And she's like slamming on his legs, and she's like, you tell me like the truth. Like, I've seen tire tracks all upstairs. And he's like, Annie, my legs are literally in splints. You think I can make my way up the stairs? Like, you're crazy. And that's when she hobbles him. She
oh.
takes out that, you know, and the whole time she's telling him
Jeez.
that she loves him.
Yeah.
Ugh.
She trips up a couple times too, like, talking about, like, how she went into town and, like, used a phone or something, and then, like, the roads, like, she was able to go to get paper or something, but then she like, "Oh, well, it's just those roads. The roads to the hospital still are not good." It's like, "What?" Like, come on.
Dude, you see in the book her mental state, like she starts getting the longer they're together, the crazier she starts to get. She has these bad moods. She starts to forget to replace the calendar. She forgets to feed like her animals. They start dying. She like there's a lien on her house. They try to take the house back. And every time, like, you know, and when I was watching the movie, I was like, one of the parts that like surprised me the most is when the police officer gets to the top of the stairs and
Mm.
she just shotguns his chest, right? And he like falls.
Do you think he makes it?
Wait,
It's
I
like
think,
there's like a literally like a big ass circle through him. Like
yeah,
he's
just a
gone.
chest wound.
Dom, he wasn't in the book, that character, at all?
No. So
Ah,
what happens, it's even worse in the book. So in the book, they're, you know, they're looking for him, and Paul has been like held up in this place for a long time. And to the point where he's like, he's too tired to even really make a big deal when they come over. Like the police officer comes by and Paul puts a ashtray through the window. And the police officer walks up, and it's like a young police officer. And he's like, oh my God, it's you. And Annie takes a crucifix and stabs him in the back a bunch of times, right?
oh,
And he goes down, and you think he's dead because she stabs him in the chest, she stabs him in the leg, and she walks away, and he starts to crawl toward his car, and you're like, oh my God, he's going to get reinforcements. And she comes out with the lawnmower and she
what?
runs him over, and like that's how he dies. And instead of her being like, I'm sorry, Paul, she comes in and she's like, you know, it's your fault that that happened. Like if you had not thrown that ashtray, that guy would still be alive right now.
Damn.
Damn, why isn't that in the movie?
Yeah, seeing a lawnmower in snow would be kind of cool too. Like just like she just runs to get a lawnmower and just gets him.
And it's like she cleans it all up, but there's blood on the other side of the blade. So you're like, oh my God, they might come over and they might realize it. And you know, every time Paul pulls something that's smart, she punishes him. So like when he does the like, oh, this paper, you know, it's like
Mm.
innocuous enough, but like this paper smudges, and she thinks that he's making fun of her. So she starts like karate kicking. She literally goes like, "Hee!" and like hits him on the leg. And he's like, no, no, no. Like, I'm telling you the truth. But she's like, she's just convinced the world is out to get her.
It's like the
God.
typewriter doesn't have an N. Like who gives a shit about the smudging? Like
Dude, by the end of the book, like, there, like, four other keys have fallen out.
it's like it's like it's spiraling out of control. Like it doesn't make sense. Like that's a cool concept too.
Well, he gets so, like, wrapped up in, like, killing her that after the first cop dies, like the second, like cops come back to look for him, and he doesn't yell out, and she's like, "Why didn't you yell out?" And he's like, "Well, I got to finish this book. Like this book is, and it's the only thing that's keeping her from killing the both of them." They kind of say that a little bit in the movie, but
Mm.
in his head, he's like, "Because I'm gonna kill you. Like I don't care if I get out of this, but I'm gonna fucking kill you." And it's wild because in the book, you're like, "Oh my god, he's gonna make a go for this. She's so strong. She's so crazy." And he does exactly what he does in the book, but it gets so much more graphic. So she picks up, how he lights the manuscript on fire?
Yeah.
She tries to save it. So she's got all the pages right in her hand and it's burning her and she's trying to put it out. And instead of him hitting, like he literally says, like, "Oh, I was planning on hitting her over the head with the typewriter, but she got far enough from the bed that he throws a typewriter at her, right? It hits her in the back. She goes down and like he's jamming these flaming pages like he does down her throat over and over and over again. And
My
she
God.
just won't, like her throat is burning. She just won't die. And like literally he does, she does that thing where she clacks her head and he goes out and like it's making all the noises in her throat, like she's suffocating under this stuff. And he gets out of the room and he locks the door and like passes out from the exertion. And when the cops come and they open the door, her body's not there. And he's like losing his mind because this woman is just like she cannot be killed. And they find her out by the pig and she had crawled out the window and she died by the pig.
See, that would have
Yeah.
been better. Yeah.
So much better.
Put that and the lawnmower scene in there, because do what they did to the old man, but instead of shooting him in the stairs, do the lawnmower thing. I don't know.
Dude, listen to this. So like in the book, he misbehaves on something else. Like he tries to put the knife underneath, and she comes in and she drugs him again, and she chops off his thumb. So he's like, "Oh, that's," and then she brings in a birthday cake with a bunch of candles on it, and one of the candles is his thumb. And she's like, "If you don't eat this cake, I'll make you eat the special candle." So he has to like with his thumb in front of him and a birthday like hat on his hat, he has to eat the cake in front of her.
The
Okay.
whole thing, like Matilda style,
Oh, I wish that would be such a victory
you
lap.
have to eat the whole cake. It's like that's a tall order.
All right,
But
they
all right.
absolutely have to remake this as a Netflix miniseries with Ann Dowd as Annie. I'm just saying
Oh,
right now, remake it because there's so much that they need to do. All this stuff you're telling me, Dom, I'm like, fuck, I need to see this. This would be so
Dude,
good.
It's gonna be so overshadowed by Kathy Bates'
I
performance.
know.
It's so hard to do that
Ann
again.
Dowd is fucking good though.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you though, they could bring back Kathy Bates and that still would work.
Yeah, you're right.
Possibly. Yeah.
And they would probably make it into a TV show nowadays because
Yeah.
they'll go into the misery part and they can stretch out, like back and forth between his narrative and what he's writing in the book.
Yes.
Well, one more question for you, Dom, about the book that I really liked in this, and it had involved the sheriff, was the when they found the car, the Mustang,
Mhm.
and the sheriff realized he didn't get out and crawl out and die in the cold. It was pried open.
Mhm.
Did that happen in the book? Did they figure out that it was pried open?
No, and like they don't even show really the sheriff's point of view. They find the car. So what happens is Annie talks about she had picked up a drifter who was like an artist and brought him back to the house. And she, one night she tried to like sleep with him and he turned her away and she kills him and she puts him in like like in the river when it's frozen, and then when it melts it puts the body downstream like miles and miles away. So the whole book she's like, your car probably got carried all the way away, so like they're never going to catch me. They kind of allude to the trials that she's been convicted of things, but like in the book goes into it and like how her upbringing and like she's killed, she keeps all the clippings of all the people she's killed. So she's killed like her father and her mother die under like mystery circumstances, then her roommate, then like all these old people, and then she gets married and the murders stop, and then this guy realizes how crazy she is and he leaves her, and then it goes from like a killing every year or every 6 months to a killing like 6 in 1 month. She just starts like she and the whole book it's weird because she's super charming. There's when she's not being crazy, she's like really charming, and she's like good conversation, and then just like that, and this is a testament to Stephen King's writing, she flips a switch and it's nuts.
She's in jail in the book at all or no?
She goes on trial but she gets acquitted because
How
they
did
can't
What? Come on, she killed that
They
many
can't prove
people?
it. They can't. There's no evidence.
Her whole thing is like, I don't feel bad for them because they got out of a bad situation. These people were dying and suffering, but and she says that, but really she's just like a fucking crazy
Yeah,
murderer.
yeah.
Dom, you keep saying, flips that switch. You know what I think of is lighting that match, because the match is so like, it's the first thing we see in the movie. It's what James Caan, he has his one match, smokes a cigarette after every book. He burns the book with the match. Like, something about lighting a match is like what she is.
Dude, I
She's
mean, it's great.
fire.
Is anyone else impressed with how James Caan can light a match with his fingernail?
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen that before. Is that
Yeah.
possible? I know Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones does the hair, like his like the
Stubble.
stubble on his
Stubble.
face. I'm like, whoa. Like,
Yeah. Damn.
well, they used to have matches like strike on anything matches where you could just like hit it on anything.
And it's the one thing that, and they show it in the movie, it's the one thing that freaks Annie out. They allude to in her past, she burned down so she hates her. She had to babysit when she was younger, and there was these two little girls who were obnoxious downstairs. And when she was like 14, she burned the building down.
Mm.
And it's like, they allude to the fact that she didn't know that it was going to work that well and that people were going to die. But like everyone except for her family who was on vacation died.
Yeah, dude, they need to make a miniseries.
Well, real quick on that note, Alec, I wanted to give my little modernization idea. We obviously know the sequel's Elf, right? We talked about that earlier.
Love it, love it.
Modernization, though. So I was thinking of like how to bring this into today, and I was thinking flip the roles to either James Caan's character being a woman and a woman, like obsessed woman, or a woman being taken care of by a man. And I was thinking, like, imagine like an Instagram influencer or some kind of model or something that is on vacation in like some Atlantic island, Pacific island or something. And there's a stalker who also goes on the trip to see if he can find her. There's a terrible storm that rolls through, knocking out power, Wi-Fi, whatever. And she gets in an accident the same way. And the guy or the female fan take care of her and do like the same thing. That's the only way I could picture a modernization.
I love it.
Because if you think about like hey, the roads aren't clear and this isn't clear, it's like, all right, well, 5G cell phone, give me the cell phone. But if you bring that into it, like a third world country or like a storm hitting, that could work.
Yeah, I still would rather see it almost redone in the same time, like it takes place in 1990, but they just update the cast and they go more in depth into it with the TV series.
Or you can just bring it back to this timeline is the 80s or the 90s.
It was written in 87, but it takes place, I think, right around then, I would assume.
Okay, so yeah, bring it back to that timeline then.
Yeah, just get more in depth with Annie's backstory. The one thing, though, that I guess, Dom, you had mentioned that is not in the book, which I actually loved that was part of the movie, is the sheriff and his wife's dynamic. I thought they were hilarious together. And I kind of thought, I thought that was Stephen King. I was just like, oh, this is fun that he wrote like a horny old lady kind of like thing. But that wasn't him. I'm so pissed.
No, and it was great.
That was good. But the one other thing too, like there's that scene where Kathy Bates like drives by the sheriff and it's like, all right, we're in a small town. I get it. But like, when does the bad guy like drive by the sheriff and the sheriff go, I'm going to see what that woman's up to, and like finds out, it's like, all right, that's a little too small of a town.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dude, there's so many like juicy, if they made it into a TV show, there's so many juicy monologues. Like the whole thing is Paul tries to get away at some point, and the reason that he eats the rat is Annie comes in and she's like in a fugue state, and she takes this rat and she breaks his back. And she's like, see, this rat is still trying to get away, even though like his life would be so much harder for him if I let him go right now. And it's like up to me. And she squeezes him and his like eyes pop out.
Oh my
and
God.
she's like, see, and she throws him into the corner and she's like, see, all better. And she leaves she goes into this, like, she calls it her laughing place, but she drives away for like 5 days on end. And Paul's like, there's no food in the house. I can't get out of here. So he eats the rat.
God damn it.
So good. It's so good. And
So
like,
good.
it's so good. And like, honestly, I'm so happy that I started with the book, because there's something about seeing the movie first that puts everything in your head. And there's something fresh about, and it's a longer book. It definitely could be made into a TV show, but there are some really juicy bits to it.
I can also picture this being like the show Fargo. like kind
Yeah.
of filmed in that way
Yes.
with Misery. Like that's what I'm
Exactly.
picturing when you're talking about this Alec and Dom. Like I'm just like, damn, this could be a really cool show.
Sign
Yeah.
me up.
Like or Psycho even. Like
Dude.
something like that.
Jesse Plemons is the writer because he's in everything, and Ann Dowd is Annie Wilkes. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, one more thing, real quick. I heard. So I don't know if this is true, but I read this on IMDb where James Caan turned down the role of McMurphy for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
Oh, why?
and Jack Nicholson got that. I don't know. I honestly don't know, but big mistake on his part. I mean,
huge.
for career wise, but I mean, come on,
He's in the
both are
Godfather.
great. Both are great. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Jack Nicholson turned down the role as not Annie. What's the main character's name in this?
Scott?
No.
Shit.
Paul Sheldon. Yeah.
So Jack Nicholson was offered this, probably didn't want to become the Stephen King guy, turned it down. Also, what he went through in The Shining, he's like, I'm kind of done with Stephen King. Like my brain is out of control. So, but then James Caan heard that. He's like, there's no way in hell I'm not doing this.
And full marks to James Caan. He did a great job. You know, you hear a lot
Yeah,
about Kathy
totally.
Bates, completely justified that, you know, she crushed it in this movie, especially being an unknown, like you said, Alec. But like he does a very good job of like being in pain and being the straight man to the fucking crazy being thrown at him.
Yeah.
I felt that when she hit him with the books and he like screamed in pain. I felt that.
Yeah.
Like that initial like
Yeah.
throwing the books on him or the paper on him. I was like, damn.
Horror finally getting its due in 1990. It's like Best Actress goes to a horror film, and then in 1991 you get Silence of the Lambs winning all 5 of those major Oscars. So it's like horror's kind of, you know, getting some respect in the early 90s.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And she won the Oscar in 91, Kathy Bates, or
in 90 for this movie, yeah. For Misery.
yeah. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
But the one thing I just wanted to mention, I love it's not what happens to this character, the author, but it's such a first world problem where it's like, I'm so sick of the success I've gotten from this one thing that I need to write something different. It's just like, he's a millionaire. He's got all this awesome stuff because of this book franchise. And he's like, I just feel like I'm boxed in, you know? Like,
It reminds me of George R.R. Martin too, but yeah, keep going.
yeah, that's it basically. I think it's so funny when like somebody's complaining about like, it's just not fair that I have to keep writing this thing that's making me millions and millions of dollars. Like, I don't know.
I want to transcend, like, you know. But hold on, one more thing. George R.R. Martin also writes the same way he does, where, you know, obviously the internet, people will hack into the computer and get his book. He has a computer that doesn't connect to the internet.
Right.
Not a typewriter, but he has a computer. I forgot what the name of the computer is, but he has like this one thing, and it's like no one else sees his books but him. No one can hack into it, you know. And similar to a typewriter, where an author would have one copy, you know.
So fucking smart. And you know the weird thing about, and they do this in the movie too, is like Annie's criticism about the way that he's writing it is correct. Like he tries to write her like a happy, quick ending. Like, okay, you want me to bring her back? She comes back and everything's good. And she's like, listen, Paul, like you need to make this better. Like I will not accept this. And the reason he gets so into it is because he's like, all right, she's going to actually make me try. And he's like, whatever, she might be crazy, but she's fucking right.
I love it. It's so funny. He's just like, it was so brilliant about her being stung by the bee, and then they have to like get her up because it happened 30 years ago. Now she's related. And I was just like, Jesus, he must have sat there and been like, all right, how the fuck am I gonna bring her back from the dead?
That's why I'm like saying he's like the elf character. He's like, right, like it's a tomato. Who cares? Like talking animals and stuff. Like no one cares. Like,
Dude, no,
he is that character.
100%. Yeah. And dude, like in the book, like you are interested in the story he's writing. You're like it flips back and forth, and it's such a shit show in real life that when he's like talks about the narrative he's writing, it's a nice reprieve from such like and maybe that's why they added so much with the sheriff. Like you need some levity in a story that fucking intense.
That's probably it, Dom. And they probably didn't want to like make an 18th century like Misery set, so they probably
snuff film,
or whatever it was. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, Dom, as always, so good to have your insight, your charisma, all of it here. So thank you.
Well, talking with you, man, is like the fastest 30 minutes ever. Like,
I know. So we always go over, and I always kind of
energy.
feel bad, but it's always a great time.
Don't feel bad.
Any final thoughts, Dom?
No, man, I really enjoyed that movie, and I agree with you both. I like it really deserves a television show, and just because those stories are so rarely as good nowadays, like the stuff that, you know, and I listen to audiobooks, everything that's new, And I'm just looking for a cut and dry, great story like that. Just that you don't need to be knowing what political like thing it's taking an angle on, or you don't need to be a part of a series. Just a one-off great story you can get lost in.
Yeah, and that's basically what this is. Eric, I just want to hear you say, "God bless her." The old woman is still alive. The actress that plays the old woman is still alive.
The sheriff, like,
Wife is still alive.
really?
Yep.
God bless her.
Damn.
Heavens to Betsy. Heavens to Betsy. I have one final thought, and Dom, you said this earlier in the podcast that Stephen King writes what he knows, and this is clearly like writing about a writer, which he's done a lot of times. But he also, this is Colorado again. We've seen The Shining's Colorado. Stephen King's like me. Like, I've been to Connecticut and Disney World, and that's about it. Like, I don't really travel. Stephen King has clearly been to Colorado, and he's clearly been to Maine, and that's about it.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
All right, that's it. That's it. Alec, back to you.
All right. Well, what do you say you spin the wheel?
We shall. I'm pulling it up right now.
Frances Sturhagen is her name, and she was born in 1930, by the way. So she is 92.
92. Hell yeah.
Great
James Caan's about that age too, right? How old is James Caan? He's gonna be 88.
Nah, he's like 81. He's born 1940. Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Spinning. Nosferatu.
No way.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, Eric. And it's so crazy because that's the 100th anniversary next week of Nosferatu.
Isn't that peculiar?
How the heck did we get that?
How did that spin perfectly on Nosferatu?
That's crazy.
100-year anniversary of Nosferatu, and we spin it.
Wow.
What?
Well, very excited for that one. Dom, as always, thank you very much. We're going to have you on, obviously, again, very soon in the future.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, such a pleasure, guys. Love it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. If you haven't had a chance yet, we released our episode on Antlers on Friday, so you can check that out. And we will see you all next week with Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.